Okay, so I think we all kind of obsess a little about aging, right? Especially when it comes to our skin, like how to keep that youthful glow, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
We're always hearing about the latest and greatest creams and treatments and all that. But
Well,
today we're getting into the real nitty-gritty, the science behind it all.
yeah.
We're taking a deep dive into some research about a plant extract that supposedly has some serious anti-aging potential.
Okay.
And get this, it's from Goldenrod. I'm super curious to hear more. What's got the scientists so excited about this stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing. It's not just about, like you said, covering up wrinkles or anything.
Right.
This research is really looking at the cellular level,
Right.
how our skin cells actually age.
Oh,
They focus on something called cellular senescence, which is basically, imagine a cell is like hitting the brakes on its lifespan, you know?
okay.
It stops dividing, and it starts to change in ways that, well, make our skin look older.
So they're just kind of like giving up on their youthful days.
Basically, yeah.
So how does goldenrod fit into all of this?
So they were looking specifically at a type of skin cell called fibroblasts, which are super important for keeping our skin firm and elastic.
Okay,
They're like the building blocks, the scaffolding that holds it all together.
gotcha.
And what they found is that this extract from goldenrod, get ready for this, it's from Solidago vergaria subspecies alpestris.
Whoa.
It seemed to actually slow down the aging process in those fibroblasts.
Wait, so this isn't just some marketing hype. They actually saw changes in how these skin cells behave.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, wow. So tell me, what were the big takeaways? What did they find?
Okay, so three main things really stood out in this research.
Okay.
So first, remember we were talking about those fibroblasts and how they're key for keeping our skin looking young?
Yeah.
Well, as we age, they go through this process called papillary to reticular transition, or PRT for short.
PRT.
Yeah, that's kind of a mouthful. But basically, they change from this, like, youthful, plump state to a less effective form as we get older.
Uh-huh.
And this extract, this goldenrod extract, it seemed to actually delay that whole transition. Like it was preserving those youthful fibroblasts.
So it's like, you know how baby skin is so smooth?
Yeah.
Part of that is all those papillary fibroblasts, right?
Exactly.
So this extract is basically saying to those cells, like, hold on to your youth a little longer.
Exactly.
This is so cool. Okay, what else? What else did they find?
Okay, so this is where it gets even more interesting, I think. The second thing they discovered was that this extract seemed to reduce something called the senescence-associated secretory phenotype.
Oh, boy.
I know, right? It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
SASP for short.
SEP.
So remember how I was saying when those cells go senescent, they start to change?
Yeah.
Well, one of the ways they change is they actually start releasing all these inflammatory molecules.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's the SASP. And those molecules, they're not harmless. They actually damage the cells around them,
Yeah.
which then, speeds up the aging process even more.
Oh, no. So it's like this domino effect.
Exactly. Yeah, a vicious cycle.
Even if some cells are trying to hang on to their youth, these other ones are like, nope, we're all going down. So what does the extract do about that?
That's the amazing part. The study found that the goldenrod extract actually interfered with that whole process.
What?
It helped to reduce how many of those inflammatory molecules were being released.
Wow. So it's like this extract is fighting aging on two fronts. It's slowing down the cell's own aging clock, and then it's quieting those alarm bells that they're sending out.
Exactly.
That is amazing. Okay, you said three major findings. What was the third one?
Right.
Okay, so we've got these cells. They're spouting off inflammatory stuff. But this goldenrod extract is like, hold up, I got this.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is amazing. Okay, so that's two pretty amazing findings. You said there were three major things they found. What was the third one?
Right. So for the third act, they actually used a 3D model of skin.
Wait.
Yeah, they basically grew skin in the lab.
Lab-grown skin. That's both really cool and a little creepy at the same time.
It's true, science can be like that. But these models, they're super useful because they really do mimic real human skin.
Okay, so what happened when they introduced the goldenrod extract to this lab-grown skin?
So get this. The skin they treated with the extract actually got thicker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're talking about the epidermis here, the outer layer that protects us from, everything.
All right.
When it wasn't just thicker, it actually showed signs of having a better barrier function.
Okay, so thicker, healthier skin that's better at keeping the bad stuff out and the good stuff in. That's what the creams promise, but this is the real deal. Maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah. This is really exciting research, but it's important to remember it was all done in vitro.
In vitro, meaning? Sorry, sometimes I get those terms mixed up.
No worries. In vitro just means it was done in a controlled lab setting,
Mhm.
petri dishes, test tubes, that kind of thing.
Ah, okay. So this is like, we've got the ingredients, they look good, but we haven't actually baked the cake yet. We don't know if it'll really rise in the real world.
That's a great way to put it. We need more research, especially in vivo studies, that means testing in living organisms and eventually humans.
So lab results are promising, but real life is a little more complicated. What else makes this research like a so far so good situation?
Well, they found some interesting stuff about the compounds in this goldenrod extract. Things like caffeine oil, quinic acids. They've got those anti-inflammatory properties we were talking about.
Right.
But, and this is important, they couldn't pinpoint exactly which molecule or which combination of molecules was responsible for the effects they were seeing.
So it's kind of like it could be a group effort, right?
Yeah.
Some musical groups, they just have this magic when they all play together, you know? You don't get the same thing from just one musician on their own. Maybe it's like that with these compounds.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be that the magic is in the synergy of all these things working together, and that just makes the research that much more complex.
Okay, so we've got this potentially revolutionary goldenrod extract, tons of potential, but we need to figure out if it's safe and effective in actual humans, and we need
Yeah.
to figure out what's making it tick. So where do we go from here? What are the big questions that this research opens up? So this whole thing has me wondering, could this goldenrod extract be like the next big thing in skincare?
Yeah.
I can just picture it now.
Unlock your youthful glow with the power of goldenrod.
Right.
But how realistic is that, really? I mean, you're the expert here.
Well, it's definitely an exciting thought, right? I mean, imagine if we could actually harness this extract to create skincare products that don't just cover up the signs of aging, but actually get in there and work on those cellular processes we were talking about.
Yeah.
That would be huge. And I think this study, even though it's early, it really opens the door for that kind of innovation.
It really makes you wonder what other, natural compounds are out there just waiting to be discovered.
What other secrets do plants hold that could help us, age more healthily? And not just when it comes to our skin, but in all kinds of ways.
Absolutely. That's what's so amazing about science, right? We're always discovering new things. And I think this goldenrod research, it's a good reminder that sometimes the key to, well, all kinds of things might be found in the most unexpected places.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate the power of plants. Okay, well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of anti-aging research, at least for today. This goldenrod stuff is pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely a lot of potential there.
Thanks so much for breaking it all down for us. It's been fascinating.
Of course, my pleasure. Always happy to talk about this stuff.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon with more explorations into the world of health and science. Until then, stay curious.
Stay curious.